So I've been thinking about updating some of my favorite lists because it's been a few years and I've read probably almost 200 books since then. But when it came to like my favorite authors list, I wasn't sure if I was ready to do just like a new favorite authors list. I'm sure some things would have changed, some people would be added, taken off. But like what interested me more in kind of reflecting on was my auto-buy authors, which are different from favorite authors. I have favorite authors who are not auto-buy authors for me, if that makes sense. And I have auto-buy authors who don't normally give me my favorite books, but I will always buy books from them. And I don't know why. There's definitely an overlap. Like there's a Venn diagram where my favorite authors are auto-buy authors, like for sure. But I just thought that was more exciting to me. And then I thought, ooh, try and rank them. And then I failed. So they are in alphabetical order by last name because I tried so hard. And like the struggle is like all of these equally, I hear they have a new book out. I'm going to try and get an ARC. I'm going to put a hold in at the library. I might buy it. Like it just, I'm going to be really trying to get my hands on these books. And it's true. The way I first started curating this list was just looking at my shelves, like who do I buy from? Because I don't buy books that often. They're very expensive. At least I think they're pretty expensive. They're not worth the money, but it's still like $30 for a new book is about what the going rate is, unless you can get a deal somewhere. And that's a lot of money. So I always usually lean on my library. And then if I'm going to add it to my collection, I gotta think about it. Am I going to reread it? Do I want it on my shelf? Etc., etc. So these are incredibly important authors to me. Their works are always like laying in my head. And I've read more than one work, I believe, by every single one of these authors, which is why they're here. There are some authors who I thought about putting on this list, but I haven't had a complete success rate with them, or I've only read one book. So I don't feel like I could tell for sure if I like just the book or if it's the author sort of thing. So that preamble out of the way, let's start with Isabel Cañas. She can't miss for me. She does a very fun blend of campy horror and like just chemistry between characters. It's always these two characters who have chemistry and there's a horrific thing happening around them and they are put in these isolated situations. And that works really well for me. The Hacienda and the Vampires of El Norte are really different, but they both worked so well for me that like the minute I hear she has another book coming out, I'm sold, I'm ready, let's go. She also does a really great job, I think, of introducing me to different historical facts that I'm just unaware of. She plays around in 1800s historical Mexico a lot. But, like, honestly, that doesn't matter to me. It's the chemistry. I love the chemistry of the characters. In the first book, it's just, like, that classic pulpy horror movie vibe, and I was just, like, so down for it. I love when people are brought together just by fear. I don't know why. And in the second one, it's mostly Nestor. I love Nestor with my entire heart. It's just, I love a glow up. And Nestor has such a glow up. He's just such a little puppy dog who loves Maggie. I think her name's Magdalena. And then they grow up and he's coming to his own. He's got all this charm and swag and is back in her life. And it's that second chance friends to lovers situation. And although I'm not sure if I'm sold on Maggie, Nestor is everything to me. And, when I have strong opinions on characters, that's when I'm drawn back to an author again. So, the next one by alphabetical order is Ted Chiang, who does not publish often. I've read both of his short story collections, but you best be aware that the next time I hear that there's a short story collection coming out, I'm going to read it. I'm going to be so excited to read it. It's just, he writes such tight, impactful short stories to me. And I've reread one of his collections. One of my favorite movies of all time is based off one of his short stories, and I love his blend of philosophical thinking and deduction and science. And, he's just a very good short story author. And I think that's also a rare trait. It's really hard to write short stories, in my opinion. And then next on my list is C.L. Clarke. And this one's probably the one where it's like I'm stretching a little bit because I also tried to stop with authors that I only had read like one series by. So like, for example, Jen Lyons isn't on my list because I can't tell if I like Jen Lyons or if I like A Chorus of Dragons. But, like, I am really desperately waiting for that third book. So here I am. I want that third book in the Lost Magics trilogy. I want it bad. And, like, also I think what's impressive about C.L. Clarke is they took tropes that I actively don't like. I don't like low magic and military fantasy. I'm really bored with rebellion fantasy 99% of the time. They put all of those elements together in a way where I am completely captivated from like the third or fourth page. And like, I know a lot of people have issues with C.L. Clarke's writing style, but for me, my brain, the communication is seamless. And so when I notice that, it's like, I am ready. And I know that there are actually short stories and novellas out there that I haven't read yet. And that's me. I'm sleeping on it. So I'll work on that. Next up, this is a prime example of an author who's never made me like a favorite book, but I will read everything new that she comes out with, especially in fantasy. I haven't read her romance, and this is Zoraida Córdova. And I probably should read her romance, if I'm being honest. I just haven't gotten to it yet. Because I like reading contemporary romance, like a lot, but like it kind of consumes my life. So I have to like parse out when I do that. But I have read her adult fantasy book, and I've read her young adult duology, and I really liked all of them. I just think she writes such a good, tight story that I find really relatable and compelling. I like the flow of it all. So she's an author where, like, I don't have favorite works, but I want to read the next book. Where is the next book? I got a short story anthology that she was the editor of. It was like Christmas short stories that were based off Love Actually. It was called like Amor Actually, I believe was the name of it. Like, that's how auto-buy she is for me. Like, I'd never done that before. Next up, I check her Twitter, I kid you not, like every 3 months. And this is Nikki Drayden. I desperately need another Nikki Drayden. I don't do many author spotlights on my channel. I have one for Nikki Drayden because I think people are sleeping on her. Harper Voyager, I think, is like good at sometimes branching out and publishing people that other people wouldn't publish because they like have like a weird, doesn't fit in a box genre style. But also they're really bad at promoting things unless they're like R.F. Kuang or something. And I'm just like, Nikki Drayden's so good. I have all of her books on my shelf. I love them so much. They're so odd. And they're odd in a way I find completely captivating. I haven't had a bad time with any of her works. So every couple months I go on Twitter and I'm like, is there a new book yet? Is there a new book yet? And actually the other day I did see a collaboration work and I'm like, oh, I guess I need to try and find that because I haven't read it yet. And this is all you're giving me, Nikki. Like, Nikki. I don't think she's going to find this video, but you best believe when she comes out with another book, I might try and, revive my interview series to have her on the channel because, like, A, promote new book, whatever the book may be. But B, I just need to understand how her brain does the weird things it does because it goes to odd places. One of the books is a spaceship inside a whale. Like, it's a time. Next up is Hazelwood. I haven't read the novellas because I haven't decided if like romance novellas would work for me because novellas in general don't always work for me, but read all the novels. All of them are at least 4-star. What am I supposed to do? Not keep reading Hazelwood when she plays with tropes and like pacing in a way that engages me? That's not ending anytime soon. I do think the newest one is my least favorite, but we have a new one coming out this summer, so I'm very excited for that. I don't remember what it's called, but I'm excited for that, even though her propensity to keep staying in the STEM field always stresses me out. Always. And do not be the first book that everyone really likes, Love Hypothesis. I really like Love Hypothesis. Read it in a day. Fantastic. Except you can definitely afford bananas on a grad student stipend. Like, don't let that book get you twisted. But complete facts in Love Theoretically about how little adjuncts get paid. Complete facts as an adjunct right now. Facts. All right. Next up is N.K. Jemisin. Well, yeah, like, obviously, like, where's my next book? We had The World We Make Great like 2 years ago. I need a new book. I've been rereading lately because I need a new book. Like, this is obvious, right? Like, now, and I think something that will surprise people, because Jemisin, if you have watched any of my favorite videos ever, she's my favorite author. Period. End of story. And, like, sometimes it flip-flops between her and Brandon Sanderson. I've read the most works by both of those authors, I'm pretty sure. Maybe Robin Hobb's up there, but, like, that's only in one world. But Sanderson's not an auto-buy author for me anymore. There are works that I don't purchase by him because he writes a lot and sometimes in a lot of spaces I have no interest in. I don't really care about his young adult works. I'm not interested in the Alcatraz books. Like, there's a lot of stuff he writes that I'm not interested in. Jemisin, I will read her grocery list. If she posted that as a blog, I would read it. Hands down. I think on Twitter she just posted her response to something her alma mater did at a university because of protests. I read that. Like, I just read anything she puts out. I must have a new Jemisin book one day. Please. I love her works so much. I do have a Jemisin reading guide. If you were ever like, where should I start with Jemisin? I've heard so much. I do have a video for that. And I will, in the nearest future, do a Should You Read for the Inheritance trilogy, because my last version of that is from like 5 years ago. It probably could use a revamp with me knowing how to talk to a camera and knowing how to maybe talk about that series. Oh, I still think that series is so tricky to talk about. But still, I want to give it another shot. Okay, next up, we got 2 Jimenezes back to back. We'll start with Abby Jimenez. She can't miss for me, at least especially with her new stuff. I haven't read her backlist, but that Part of Your World series has me. I cannot stop. And when I read those books, they instantly make me laugh. I instantly can't put them down, and it leads to insomnia, which isn't amazing. I have to plan them for when I don't have work for that very reason. But it's like, I can't look away. I love the communities. I love the chemistry. I love characters recovering from trauma. Yeah. I think between her and Allie Hazelwood, I no longer need to await the next Sarah J. Maas. I used to read every Sarah J. Maas. This year was my first year where I didn't read the new one because I am so done with those overwritten books. And these authors have really shown me, A, that contemporary romance might actually be a space that I like a lot more than I thought I would. Not that I ever thought I wouldn't like it. I just never dabbled. But also just give me all of the tropes and pacing that I want without some convoluted fantasy plot that doesn't even really make sense anyways. So like, why are we even trying, you know? Like, Akamath's the best one because it's like not as serious as the others. Like, it's serious emotionally, but plot-wise, not that serious. Next up, though, is Simon Jimenez, who has 2 books. Would love another book. I do remember Evie did an interview with him, and there is another book on the horizon, and I'm incredibly excited for it. But in the meantime, I'll probably reread one or both of them because I love them. I love them so much that sometimes I don't know how to talk about them. The Vanished Birds, I do have a review for. I could never figure out how to make a review for The Spear Cuts Through Water. It's so odd. I feel like whenever I reread that someday, maybe I'll make a review for it. But in general, I love how he crafts a story. It's so intentional. It shows such love for the genres he's playing in while being completely unique and something I've never seen before, and I really value that in my reading experiences. I love seeing something new that feels familiar. I think that's really tricky. So yeah, it's great. I love his works. I want more of his works. If you haven't seen that interview, it is incredibly good. Next up is Maia Johnson, who has 2 books out in the same world, and it's very polarizing, the second book. But I love them both. And I think she had such a strong debut that she became an auto-buy author off of 1 book. And then I read the second book, and I'm like, yeah, I'll read anything you write. I will read anything you write. Your brain is great. I'm here for it. So yeah, that's just how I feel. I just have a really good time with her works. Next up, shouldn't be shocking, T. Kingfisher, one of my favorite authors. Is there really much to say? They're cozy. Every single one of them makes me smile. I have character connection instantly to all of her books. So even if not all of them are 5 stars, I will always read them. I have read mostly T. Kingfisher this year, and it's been a fantastic decision. So I have no regrets there. Ooh, this next one. I can't wait for the next book, and I need to read more of his backlist. This is Victor LaValle. I read 2 works by him, The Changeling and Lone Woman, and they were both phenomenal. It had this really great pairing of horror and dark fantasy, which is like my sweet spot. It kind of reminds me of Pan's Labyrinth, the movie directed by Guillermo del Toro. And like, it's just, the themes are so rich. Like Changeling, if you ever want to read a story about like just a good father, The Changeling. I feel like it was weird that in that moment I realized how few stories we have where the main point of it is this person is a good father. Like, we have stories about men who are fathers, but I wouldn't say they're good. Looking at you, Jason from Dark Matter, you are a horrible father. But, like, he's a good father. And a lot of the plot is centering him being a father. and things like that. The Changeling is super fun. Also a love letter to New York City, because every author who lives in New York City must put that somewhere, and I appreciate it because I love cities. But Lone Women takes place in, I believe, is it Montana or Minnesota? I think it's Montana, but I'll be real, I get a lot of the M states mixed up, but I'm pretty sure it's at least not Missouri. But regardless, that one's the one where Adelaide goes to Homestead and has this huge family secret on her, and it's so good. I still think about that book. It's been a year and a half. So next new release by that author, I'm in line. I'm ready. Fonda Lee, author of the Greenbone Saga. I really liked the Untethered Sky novella. Her brain, her writing style, it just works for me. It just works. So I'm going to read stuff. That's all I have. I actually really liked being able to see her in a different sort of intimate space in Untethered Skies. You have family dynamics that you're always looking at, and they're really messy in Greenbone Saga. In Untethered Skies, you get to look at messy relationships, but they're different, almost more subdued. And seeing that range had me really impressed. I'm really excited for her next project. Okay, Ken Liu. Need I say more? This is one of those authors who, I have an interview series with on the channel. I've read his short stories. I've read his epic fantasy series. There are a couple new short stories that are out that I haven't read yet, but they are on my list. It's just, his brain is so cool. I say this in both my Should You Read and the interview, it's he thinks about the questions I'm thinking about, but he puts in the effort to think of a cool answer for them. And I'm really appreciative of that because I'm lazy sometimes. I don't have the energy. So auto by author, always. Also just a delightful human being. You ever get to meet him at a signing or something? He's really easy to chat to. I got to chat with him in Boston, and that was just so fun. Next up, another author I interviewed who's also a delight, Karen Lord. She's great. She's a author who lives in Barbados. So if you're ever looking for Caribbean speculative works, she's definitely someone I would point you to. Her, Nayla Hopkinson. There's a couple others I'm blanking on, but a lot of their short stories are in New Suns, volumes 1 and 2, if you want to check them out. But Karen Lord has such a wide spanning collection of genres. She has her sci-fi, we'll call it a trilogy for now, and she's got a folklore story, and then I haven't read Unraveling because I'm scared, because once I finish it, there's no more Karen Lord. But that one's more of a horror, apparently, according to her, and I just love her works so much. I think she's really funny. I think her style's very witty. I think it's very human and focused on culture and identity, and she just shows such range. So I'm very excited to read her next work. And then Carmen Maria Machado, who only has, I think, 2 books out. There might be a graphic novel somewhere. But we've got the short story collection, Her Body and Other Parties, which I adore. One of my favorite short story collections of all time. And then you have Into the Dream House, her memoir, which is one of the most unique memoir experiences I've ever read. And just whatever art she wants to throw out in the world, I'm going to look at it. I'm going to look at it, and I'm going to be interested in it, and that's why she's on this list. And then the last author, just by alphabetical order, is River Solomon. I think I've read all of their works that is currently out, except for maybe a short story. And they are all really compelling, and they've only gotten better and better for me. I think Sorrowland is one of the most recent novels, and that one blew me away. I really loved that one. I think about it pretty often, and it's been 3 or 4 years since I've read it. That one's a really fun sci-fi thriller with cozy elements, and it's just so weird. They really lean into a weird factor that can sometimes, I think, let a story get away from you, but it just stays on the line for me and my tastes. I'm sure it's not that way for everyone, but whatever story they want to explore next, I'm down for it. So those are my auto read authors, auto buy authors, and why. Let me know any of yours down below, and any recommendations you have if you feel if you like this author, their works remind me of X author, so I can put them on my never-ending TBR and explore and find new things, because I love finding new authors that I'm excited about. It's nice to have a group of authors that you can consistently go back to and just be excited for a good time, I just think that's really great, and part of how I keep myself as far away from reading slumps as I reasonably can. And if you just want to leave an emoji to let me know you're here, leave a house. We've talked about houses a lot. yeah, let's do houses, like haunted house, something like that. And otherwise, like if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!